Welcome to Peak, Train Like a Girl, a podcast by girls in sport, for girls and coaches in sport. We're here to amplify your voice. It deserves to be heard. At Peak, we are a safe place for girls to hang out, learn, grow, and build community. We empower girls in sport and coaches with knowledge, resources, and support we think is necessary in today's athletic atmospheres to thrive. Join us for bold conversations about the experiences of girls in sport. Our discussions will make you laugh, cry, cheer, get frustrated, and hopefully rethink the future of girls in sport for generations to come. So whether you're walking, commuting, cleaning your bedroom, moving into your dorm room, take us with you. Follow us. It helps more than you can imagine. Check out our website and make sure you share with a female athlete or coach you love. Now, I'm super excited to introduce a new and hopefully ongoing feature at Peak Train Like a Girl podcast called Table Talk. So I've invited two of my favorite female athletes, Megan and Mia, to join me in the conversation today. So thank you both for taking the time out of your full summer schedules to be here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. I'm excited.
Yes, thank you. I'm really excited to be part of this.
Yay. So Table Talk is really kind of what it sounds like. It's just open conversation among friends sitting around or on a table. So what I'd love to start with is we are smack dab in the middle of what I think is one of the most exciting and well-covered Olympics that we've had in a long time. And I think it is super coincidental that two of my most favorite things to be watching right now are both swimming and track and field. I know we just finished swimming. Track and field, there have been so many things where like literally jaw dropping, as you know, with swimming with Katie Ledecky. And I just wanted to maybe get your thoughts or feelings around both the Olympics, the coverage, you know, what you think it means for girls in sport. So take it away.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about swimming because it just came to an end this past Sunday, sadly. I wish it could go on for weeks, but that's a little tough. But yeah, I do totally agree. The coverage was so amazing out in Paris. It was like so fun and easy to watch. And I loved like going back and rewatching certain races or prelim heats because the thing about like swimming and track, it's so fun. You get to watch the prelims, the semifinals, and then the finals in a lot of these events. So that's been super cool. And I think another thing that is so fun about the Olympics is that a lot of times before a semifinal, before the finals, they'll kind of show like snippets, personal stories, or like a one-on-one interview with a lot of these athletes, which is just so interesting to learn about a lot of these girls' backstories and their lives and how they got to this point. So it has been so fun, and I love watching the Olympics every 4 years. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This year, I feel like we have a lot more of like a personal connection with the athletes as we're watching because, like you said, we not only get the backstories that are like on the production on Peacock itself, but I feel like with social media, we have been getting a lot of insight into like their day in the lives. There have been a lot of Olympians that are using TikTok, which I find kind of funny because it's like, yes, they're competing at the highest level. And then we can also see them. I don't know if you've seen the chocolate muffin reviews, but there's a lot of like behind the scenes, whether it's in the dining hall or just like the Olympic Village life. That's really fun to keep up with. And I think it does create like a good balance and insight into seeing, you know, the best athletes in the world. This is the Olympics after all. And then, you know, just their fun day in the life, like eating at the dining hall together and reviewing muffins. It just provides like the duality of what these girls really have in their lives.
Yes, I totally could not agree more. The TikTok, seeing like those videos have been so cool to see because I've always wondered like, what does it look like when they go to bed or like where are they actually staying? So that has been super cool. And I think another thing that I noticed is that a lot of these girls, like on the swim team, have been making cool videos about like, oh, who do we wish we could run into in the Olympic Village? And it's like Simone Biles or it's Sarah McLaughlin. Like it's so cool. Like they're starstruck about all these other athletes too, which is so fun to see.
I think specifically with the swimmers, well, I may be a little biased in my eyes, but I feel like the top two sports that are being covered this Olympics are track and field and swimming. Like something about the people competing. I think these two sports have like the best personalities represented on the stage.
Yeah.
So I find swimming specifically really interesting because most of the women competing, aside from Katie Ledecky, obviously are like college athletes, which I find so cool. I mean, as a college athlete yourself, like you're probably competing against some of these girls, and it's so amazing to see them like go to Paris and then see them at a swim meet in Iowa. Like there's just such a difference there. And I just think like it's so cool to have that insight from them, and their personalities really show through.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And I think that one of the things one of my goals for this year is to figure the TikTok scene out, not for me personally, but I want to, because enough people talk about it. And I think for me to continue to be relevant in what I do as a coach, I also need to be able to relate to what my athletes are doing and seeing. So that's something I'm going to really kind of try to figure out. This year, I figured if I can figure out like Instagram or a podcast, I can figure out TikTok.
I think TikTok would be run so smoothly for you, Annemarie. You have such a podcast background now. I think it would be so fun.
So and there's so much more you can do and see on it. And I think that what you're both saying is that it humanizes who these athletes are. And, you know, just the ability to look at somebody as a human before a high performer, I think is so important. And I think that's something that some of the social media coverages, and obviously, you know, some people have such big personalities, and that's their personalities, whether it's, you know, this overconfidence, which what some people see it, or maybe it's the, you know, the subtlety of really not saying anything. That really has to, for me, that's more to do with a personality type and less to do with how competitive someone can be or can't be. I think the thing that's interesting for me with both of these sports in particular, these are the two sports that, you know, aside from basketball and maybe lacrosse, I have the most connection to. And you guys touched on it, is that we get to see the prelims, we get to see, you know, the finals, and then we get to see, you know, the event. And then prior to this, we got to see the qualifications, right? We got to see the swim trials. We got to see the track and field. I think what people forget is what a grind it is. And now keep in mind, some of these athletes who also were competing in the NCAAs, then they also had to go to the qualifiers for the Olympics. Like they have been on overdrive for months. And I do think we sometimes forget that. And people are like, well, wait, they're doing 2 events in a day. And I'm like, yeah, that is the life of a swimmer or a track and field athlete. They're competing in multiple events. You guys kind of think that also, that sometimes that people forget that these athletes are on 24/7?
Yeah, I think, Megan, you can go. Okay. I think it's such, like, I do believe it's overlooked, and like someone in specific that always stands out to me with this in track and field is Parker Valby, because not only, I mean, obviously Parker Valby is like highly appreciated, and she's honestly brought so much more attention to the sport, not only because she's attracting different demographics, because she's like this beautiful, spunky Florida Gator, but I think she definitely is overlooked in terms of how much she really like commits to the sport. And she herself in interviews definitely like downplays it, which at points I'm like, you should be giving yourself the recognition you deserve. But at the end of the day, she has really gone through, I mean, racing the 10K and the 5K this many times throughout indoor track. Honestly, I saw her back in January racing to now at the Olympics, is so much work. She hasn't really had any off time, and to now see her compete at this high of a level and obviously still get the recognition she deserves, but really to recognize how long and how many miles she has put into this is really just like such an interesting thing to see, because she puts up a front of being like this girl's like a very young, like spunky girl. But at the end of the day, she is one of the like most high level athletes in the sport at this time. And she's like, I think she has such a good balance with that in terms of her personality and in terms of like how much work she puts in. It's so cool to see.
Yeah. What about you, Megan?
She has been so cool to watch too. Wow.
Yeah.
I would say I agree with a lot of things that Mia just said. It's so interesting because obviously we get to see it firsthand, Mia and I competing at our respective colleges, but with track, there's indoor and outdoor. So all year long with swimming, you have your, NCAA 25-yard season, and then you go right into the 50-meter pool from March until August. So I do feel that besides like the trials, because there's a handful, there's a great percentage of people who do know about both track and swimming trials, and then, just a handful of people who are just watching the Olympics. But I do think it's definitely forgotten about that the NCAA season goes all the way until March, and then you don't really get a day off because you're thinking about the Olympics next. So I do wish sometimes there's two super fun, awesome sisters, Gretchen and Alex Walsh, that both swim for Virginia. So
yes.
They're so cool. Again here in a couple of weeks when we all go back to school. So I do wish sometimes, just like you said with Parker, that they would, kind of explain how their year has gone and just what a journey it's been. But yes, I would definitely say that sometimes it is a little bit overlooked.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I wonder if that's because I'm going maybe a little to the right here. I wonder if that has to do with this environment where these athletes or coaches, it doesn't matter who is trying to quote unquote market themselves. So this idea of toxic positivity where everything's always good. And I really struggle with that because I don't think every day is a good day. That's just me. Like some days I have a bad day, and some days I think you're allowed to have a bad day. And some days, there's seasons in life where you're struggling. I don't know what that it is, whether it's with injury or overload, or I don't know what it is, but I wonder if we live in a world where particularly someone who has a more public facing image, they have to tie it up in a neat bow for people to be able to consume it and digest it in a marketable way. Do you guys think that?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, I don't know what goes into like a Nike NIL, but Parker Valby was Nike's first NIL athlete. And I feel like with Nike just being such like an iconic, respected brand in running, they really wanted to choose someone that had like such a great image. And I think a reason I've struggled to like support Parker Valby throughout her past few years, and I feel like now I've recently gained a lot of respect for her, but it was just difficult to see at first someone that's always like ahead of the pack by a minute and a half on the cross country course, like someone succeeding this well and then finishing a race and interviewing in such a way that it's like, yeah, I really didn't put in much effort. So for a long time, I know me and a lot of other NCAA runners have like had a hard time understanding how she's so amazing and like had a hard time supporting her. But at the Olympic trials, she had an interview after the 10K, and that was the first time I saw her really own up to how much work she put in. And she really gave herself, like she put herself off in a very mature manner, and she really owned up to how much work she's been putting in and how much it means to her and like the emotions that went into it. And that was the first time where I was like, wow, this girl like really fights for it. And I'm really happy to see her put the NCAA on the Olympic stage, let alone in the top 3 in the 10K in such a difficult packed event in the US. And I think that was a really good turn in her like positive mindset, because it was so outwardly positive for so long that all of us were kind of begging for her to show like some struggle. And those races, when she was racing the pros, was the first time where I really saw her work. I saw the grit in her face, and I was like, this is what I like to see. Like, this is a good reason for her to be an idol for people now.
Yeah. What about you, Megan? What do you think?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I did not know that kind of background about her. That is, wow. So that's super interesting. I would kind of say more so on what Mia touched on at the beginning, like the NIL deals and just deals in general. So a lot of these college swimmers that have made the Olympic team, these swimming brands are all, kind of what she said, just you're kind of touching into being powerful and strong and just all of these qualities, like all of the time, no matter what, behind the blocks and practice, walking to class. They've kind of used that marketing aspect for a lot of these commercials or what we see on social media. So I do think that sometimes we don't really see kind of what you were saying, Annemarie, just like, maybe it wasn't your best semifinal. You did something that you weren't very happy with, but, there's a camera and there's a microphone right away. So. So yeah, I definitely do agree with that.
Yeah. And and I don't want to beat this to death, but I do think this is one of the reasons we're here. And Mia, I'm going to be really honest with you. I struggle with Nike. I mean, I won't wear a Nike shirt. I won't wear Nike shoes. I really struggle with, and listen, me not purchasing a Nike thing is not going to make or break Nike. Let me be perfectly clear.
Yes.
But it's kind of the little thing I can do. I really do believe, in particular with girls in sport, they're kind of big corporate America, save face at all costs has really jeopardized the health and well-being, both physically and mentally and emotionally, of a lot of female athletes. And I really kind of want to go shame to them. And that's just, and that goes way beyond the toxic positivity thing. They're literally covering up things that are harmful to young women. And, they've been called out on it. And, a little slap on the wrist for them, or a firing of a coach here, or isn't enough to have people, stop looking at them as, kind of the king of the track. And I don't know, I struggle with that. Do you guys, either of you, have any feelings on that?
I'm not sure how well versed Megan is in track and field history, but for any track and field fans listening, Nike has for such a long time been the top dog in sponsorship, in racing. They have the top athletes. They always will. Mm-hmm. But historically, they had a coach for one of their teams named Alberto Salazar. And this is so much Nike lore that anyone can research.
Yeah.
But Nike running is kind of just built in a toxic place. And I feel like it's going to take so much more to undo it all. I do think there's great athletes that come out of Nike programs.
Sure.
But as a whole, just because it's such a corporate focused business, and it's not necessarily a smaller running team that'll focus on the wellness of the individual, and there's not so much writing on the name, there always will be some darkness to it.
Yeah.
So I totally agree that obviously doing not you personally not buying from Nike is not going to do a massive change to this huge corporation. But I do think it's important to recognize that there are flaws in it. Absolutely. And smaller programs can create amazing athletes as well and make them strong individuals without focusing on the brand too much.
Oh. Me, I think you're cutting out just a little.
Sorry, you just cut out as well.
Yeah. So I think we lost a big chunk of what you just said there. So could you cut a little out? But, I agree with you. My not purchasing a Nike shirt or Nike shoes, is not going to make a difference to that company. But I do think if there are more people in the arena just holding them accountable, even from the outside, I just think it helps people be aware that corporate entity, and I know that it happens in swimming too. I know that it happens everywhere. That corporate entity is in business to make money. They are not in business to protect the integrity or the health or the well-being of an athlete. So, Megan, do you have anything to kind of add in there as far as corporate sponsors, NIL, and just the protection of athletes?
Yeah, I definitely think that with these bigger corporations, like you guys both just said, that is something that can easily just get brushed under the rug and not talked about. But I really did not, or I guess I wasn't aware of this correlation between, Nike and what you just shared, Mia. So that is super interesting to me. And I feel like now I'll be able to see that pretty clearly. But wow, I did not really know that about Nike and Nike running.
Yeah, the Nike Oregon project was actually shut down because of harm to athletes. Yeah, so the program that they started with distance runners. And listen, we can't also, negate the fact that distance running, different than track and field. And quite frankly, I think swimming struggles with the same. Distance running isn't, it isn't the darling of the Olympics. They're barely even showing the 10,000, and in a lot of places, it's hard to even find that, because people don't have the attention span, and
right.
You can't build these epic runners because most these runners, as Mia was saying, are they only running the 15, or they're running the 5, or they're running the 10, or they're running the marathon. So it's not like a swimmer who has the opportunity to, have multiple events where they're medaling. That's typically for a distance runner. That's typically not what happens. So Nike, as far as bringing, light to these incredible athletes, these distance athletes, they did a remarkable job there. And I appreciate that piece of it, and it turns into a complicated equation. But I guess if we go back to what we were talking about in the beginning around, just the toxic positivity, what is the responsibility of us, or you as athletes and us as coaches, to give people space to be authentic and true to themselves? I guess that's what it boils down to for me. What do you guys think about that?
I could not agree more with that. I think there just needs to be kind of like what we're doing right now, and what, a common theme has been throughout all of our episodes, just creating a space where that it's not such, like you're stepping on people's toes, you're nervous. It's just something that can be talked about and realized and understood. So yes, I definitely agree with that point, Annemarie.
What about you, Mia?
Yeah, I definitely agree as well. You cut out a little bit there, but I think just having personality in the sport as a whole is bringing so many more people into watching the Olympics and giving eyes on women in sport, which is just so amazing.
Yeah, I agree. So as we get ready to kind of wind down our table talk here, I would love for each of you, Mia, why don't we start with you, to fill us in. What does your summer look like? What does it look like when you go back to school in the fall? What do you predict from the season? Like, what do you need from us as a community to keep you, not only in check, but to also keep you able to share your own feelings and emotions? Like, what do you need from a support perspective? So why don't you fill us in there?
In regards to this summer, so focusing on my training wise, I was having a really good summer at the start, and then I went to Oregon, watched the Olympic trials, which was just amazing in itself. But while I was in Oregon, I hopped off the flat trails of Illinois, obviously, and was running in the mountains and sprained my ankle pretty badly. So I feel like that's one thing that isn't talked about, is like a minor injury that really does take a lot of time to heal. So I've been out for about like 5 weeks now, easing back into running, but my ankle just has taken a big toll on me. And it takes 9 weeks or so to heal a low ankle sprain, which I had no idea about. So be careful where you step. But I'm still really excited to get back to school. I cannot wait to see my team. We have had a few meetings this summer, and my coach is really focusing on like the team bonding outside of the sport itself. So we have a few local meets at the beginning of the season, and we have a lot of like team bonding activities built around those meets. So we have our second meet at Navy, and then we're going to the beach afterwards all together. And it's just like little things like that that I'm very excited for. Not only getting back to racing, which I hope to do so for my first time in about 2 years, which I'm nervous about, but I'm excited for. And just having like a really good team to work with this year. I'm super excited. We have about 50% of the team is new. So we have a lot of new faces to work with, some really, really talented girls. And overall, I'm just very excited. Obviously, I'll stay open about my journey with injury. I'm really hoping to stay healthy, and I'm working with my coach to get on the line this year because I really, really miss racing. But honestly, just being open about my emotions through this injury process, and then hopefully being able to cheer my team on and get out there myself is what I'm looking forward to.
Love that. What about you, Megan?
Oh my gosh, Mia, we kind of have a very similar situation here with a few of those things. This past summer, we ended finals at the beginning of May. So I've been in Iowa City for about 90% of the summer, just training. And then I got to go home for the 4th. And I'm home right now before visiting some family until we go back to school. But kind of like what you were just talking about, we have a pretty young team, and there are only 5 seniors this year. So me being one of them. So we want to, really try and create a very, close, tight-knit relationship with all these young girls and lead them I don't think there really is a right way, but the best way that we can, just kind of be those leaders and mentors that, we had when we were freshmen year, wish we would have had. So that's one thing I would love from you guys. If you guys have any fun team things that you guys are doing, you should totally share them.
Oh my gosh, I'll let you know. Yes,
do have-
in any more table talk episodes, I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated on our team bonding.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited for those. So we do have a few things lined up before the first week of school starts, just as, team bonding, taking them around the campus, showing them their classes. So things like that. But yes, would love all of your guys' ideas and opinions. And then for myself, I'm just looking forward to racing. We kind of start up in October and we'll go until March, and we start with some more local meets, which I think will be good just to race as a team all together and just have a fun little couple travel meets. And I think for myself, this is my last year of swimming. I've been doing it for quite a long time. So I think just trying to really, it's harder said, easier said than done, but just really soak up, every opportunity and chance that I get to do what I love and what I've been doing for so many years. So it's still going to be, as we know, our seasons are a little bit long. So it's going to be a long one.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm going to have a good year. Positive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And I love that you both it's interesting, even though you're in different sports, there are similarities to just the intense training schedules and kind of what's required. But also I love that you both have the heart for bringing community and culture and kind of the humanness back to sport. So I think that's super cool. Something I started with our team a while ago is letting them pick a nonprofit that they want to do some work with. So this year there's an organization called The Haven, which is in the hometown that we're in, and it is a shelter for abused women. And we started last year making meals. So you sign up with this organization and you bring a meal in. And we started it at the end of last year. And I think we ended up going through 5 cycles. But I'll tell you, the interesting piece of this is that it's smaller groups of athletes. So maybe it was like 7 or 8 athletes. They get to plan the meal, which I love that we're centered around like food and community and, what does a meal look like? And then we're cooking it together and then we're delivering it. And it was just something that was so fun just because it was involved with so many of the things that we talk about anyways. Make sure you're fueling enough. Well, you don't have to talk about, we're planning a menu. Like it was, so there were undercurrents of things that I wanted to focus on, but then just also understanding, the privilege of being a college or a high school athlete. And I don't mean that in well, you're privileged to do that, but I do sometimes think the grind can make us not realize there's some people who are just literally getting up and trying to get through the day. Right. And so I think that just kind of you're not saying these things. You're doing this and you're helping. So I think like the connecting with a nonprofit in your community and seeing what you can do as a team, I think is something that's super helpful, and it's fun. I think there's a fun aspect to it too. So that's like from a team building thing, that might be something to look into, just as, you got the Children's Hospital right there. There's so many opportunities, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that, and I will be writing that down.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you both for taking time out of your full lives and your full schedules and your breaks to be here at Table Talk. This is our first. I hope that we can circle back and do this every, 5 to 8 weeks or so and just talk about topics that are current and what's going on with girls in sport. I appreciate your insight. I love that you've got your pulse on what's going on and different perspectives. And I think that that's super helpful. So thank you both again for your time and your energy. Thanks everybody for listening and tuning in. Don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to share our episodes. Join us on Instagram at Peak Train Like a Girl. And take a minute to explore our website. We will drop to the links to things that we talk about at on the show. Maybe what we'll do on this one is drop the links to the swim schedule at Iowa and the cross country schedule at Georgetown. You guys can take a peek at what Megan and Mia are doing. I think that would be super fun. So
that would be so fun.
Yeah, if that feels good to you both, I would love to do that. And then they can follow you and cheer for you throughout your season. And also, if I could just ask if everyone that listens to the podcast can give us a follow and a 5-star rating, it absolutely helps more than you can possibly know.